Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to this month's webinar. We are really excited to introduce Michael Schmidt from Housemaster Inspections. We have been working with Michael for a number of years now, and he's a fantastic inspector with a lot of knowledge in terms of not only inspecting your home, but also maintaining your home. So we've been through many presentations, but also inspections with Michael, and we thought tonight would be a great opportunity to introduce and share some of his knowledge, and also talk about a very important topic at this time of year, which is winterizing your home. Today was a beautiful day outside, despite we having the snow on Monday, but winter is coming, and Michael's got some great tips on what we can do to get ready for the winter months. So without further delay, here is Michael Schmidt from Housemaster. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for having me. Really pleased to be here. And I'm going to share my screen with you. I have a bit of a presentation on fall maintenance or preparing your home for winter. So I'm going to talk to you about how to keep your home in shape, easy ways to reduce costs, save energy, and protect your real estate investment. So oops, let me just make sure that I can toggle through this. There we go. So thank you for the intro, Alex, but here I am again. I'm Michael Schmidt. I'm with Housemaster Home Inspections. I'm the area director for the Toronto area franchise. These are my phone numbers, my contact information, how to get in touch with me. We do home, condo, pre-listing inspections. We do home maintenance inspections. I also have a colleague who does commercial inspections for us, and we do multi-unit properties. So if you are an investor, you have a small apartment complex or a home, multi-unit home, please think of us and get in touch. So either take a screenshot of that, or maybe take a picture of it with your phone, or just ask Alex and Elaine, and you can get in touch with me. So Housemaster is a national franchise or a North American franchise. We're throughout Canada and the United States. We've done over 3.5 million home inspections since we started the franchise in the late 70s. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. And during that time, we've done over 3.5 million home inspections throughout North America. So we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. We've seen everything. And as part of that, we conducted a survey of about 2,500 plus homes a few years ago. And these are some of the statistics that we got from that survey of homes that we inspected. The bottom line is, these are kind of interesting to look through, and I'll just invite you to look at it while I talk. But the bottom line is that in looking at properties, we found that 84% of all homes had defects due to lack of maintenance. Okay. And so maintenance is a huge part of making sure that you don't have concerns with your house, and a huge part of protecting your investment. And so these are some of the things that you'll see that we run into based on the age of the home. And one that I kind of find interesting is when the 13 to 29 is actually larger than the 30 plus. For example, we have larger problems with heating and cooling systems in the 13 to 29 years as versus the 30 plus. And that's because, at that 13 to 29 years, that's when they die. And so they've been replaced in the 30 plus, and so we don't have as many problems. But today I have a bit of an agenda here. What I hope to help you do is reduce costs, reduce health and safety hazards, reduce energy consumption, and protect your investment, whether it be a personal home or whether it be an investment property. So why do we want to do this? We want to reduce our costs, and why we want to avoid expensive emergency repairs. If you have to call a plumber or a roofer for an emergency, a roof leak, a plumbing leak, something like that, you run out of heat in the winter time, it's going to cost you more, depending on the time of day you call and the urgency of your call. So avoid those expensive emergency repairs. You want to extend the service life of the elements and systems in your home. So if you take, I'm fond of saying to my clients, you take care of your home, it'll take care of you. So an example is your heating and cooling systems. Having those maintained on a regular basis makes sure that you don't have a surprise in the middle of winter or a surprise in the middle of summer. So you want to make sure that those heating and cooling systems are working. A surface inspection is a little money out of your pocket each year, but it makes sure that your systems are working. And that the same goes for other parts of your home. You want to minimize homeowner insurance premiums. So if you correct deficiencies in advance where they don't result in a catastrophe, you will keep your insurance premium low. If you have more claims, your insurance premium will go up. Makes sense, right? And you want to eliminate costly consequential damage. So in the example of, say, a roof leak is bad. If you know you have bad shingles, you know your shingles are deteriorated, they're obviously curling, they're breaking down, you're finding them on the grounds of your house, you know you have to replace your shingles. But if you don't, it could lead to ceiling damage. It could lead to damage of furnishings. It could lead to damage of personal items that are irreplaceable. So you want to take care of those because before they cause a problem. You also want to reduce potential health hazards. So plumbing and roof leaks, they can lead to potential mold growth. Outdated electrical systems, these can become a potential fire hazard. Faulty heating or venting systems can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning, and loose railings or lifted walkways. These can lead to possible trip or fall hazards. So you want to protect yourself, you want to protect your family, you want to protect those who visit your property. You don't want to get sued for a trip and fall because your walks were all buckling because of the tree out front. So you want to take care of that in advance. You want to reduce energy consumption. So if you can see this diagram, you can see how the blue arrows are cool air coming into the house. The red arrows are hot air going out of the house. There's lots of different voids and breaches in the house envelope that offer opportunity for air to get in and out. So when I say plug leaks here in this, what do I want to say, in this deck, I mean plugging air leaks. So cable lines, pipes, electrical outlets, switch plates inside your house, these all can have air transfer. So you can seal them with caulking or buy the things that go behind the switch plates, a little bit of foam rubber to make sure that air transfer is eliminated. You want to insulate both your attic and the attic hatch. So many attic hatches that I visit have no insulation at all. So that's both an energy loss, but it's also a potential condensation concern, which could lead to mold. So you want to take care of that. And you can reduce consumption by actually wrapping your hot water heater in an insulation to make sure that it doesn't consume as much gas or electricity. And you want to change the air filters in your HVAC system and also clean the vents for things like your laundry or the vents in your kitchen vent for venting out of the house. You want to maintain good air quality with your HVAC system. But if you actually clean, say, the dryer vent for your laundry equipment, it will actually make your dryer work more efficiently. Your clothes will dry faster, and you'll use less electricity, or gas in the case of a gas dryer. So these are all things that you can do to reduce energy consumption. And then you want to protect your investment. So homes in good condition sell at higher prices than their neglected counterparts. I think that both Elaine and Alex can attest to this, that we've had a pretty intense past couple of months as far as housing sales go. But the homes that were really yielding the best return, the homes that were going for way over asking, these are homes that were ready to sell. These are homes that were maintained, they were in good condition. Certainly, there were homes that were being sold as is that were selling, no problem. But maybe they were sitting on the chopping block a little while longer. Maybe they weren't getting those increased premiums that we were seeing on some of the more ready-to-go homes. So taking care of your home is also a good investment for that. So now I've told you all the whys. Why are we doing this? I want to tell you what you can do to look out for these problems and how to prepare yourself for winter. By the way, I do have this same list that I'm going to go over with you in PDF and paper format. So I can share this with Elaine and Alex, or if you took down my email address at the top of the presentation, you can reach out to me directly. Happy to share, flip you the PDF. It has both a spring and a fall version for you to get prepared for each season. So by the way, I will tell you that if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I'm not monitoring the chat, but I know Elaine and Alex are, and they will chime in from time to time to let me know what your questions are. I'm happy to ask any questions you have, either about fall maintenance and prepping for winter, or about another issue with your house. So on the exterior, let's start at the top. Let's start at the roof. This is a big deal for most people. You want to check for loose and damaged, missing shingles. So not everybody knows what an old roof looks like, but if you're missing shingles, if the shingles are clearly damaged, if they're curling or they're losing the grain on them, in the case of an asphalt shingle, or if they're a wood shingle and they're deteriorated, they have moss growing on them, they're breaking at the ends, you can see separation, then it's time to start having those repaired. Thankfully, we still have time before winter comes to do roof repairs. I'm planning on having my entire roof reshingled at my rental property in Hamilton this year, and there's still plenty of time to do that. You also want to check the soffits for signs of moisture buildup or damage. This could be coming from a leak through the roof, through the shingles. It could also be because of misdirected or malfunctioning roof drains, and by that I mean eaves trough. So either the eaves troughs are backing up, they're full of debris, they're overflowing, or maybe they're not angled properly. That could be leading to damage of your soffits. By the way, the soffits, so this is a peaked roof, and underneath here, okay, that's the soffit. So underneath the eaves, that's where the soffit is, okay? You want to check the condition of your chimney. Chimneys are a very expensive item, both to build and to dismantle. So, but chimneys are a way for water to get in your house. You want to make sure that they're in good shape. They have their mortar joints are filled and they're not deteriorating. The bricks are not loose. If there's a crack, water can get in that crack. It will freeze and thaw. It will make that crack bigger, and then more water will get in, freeze and thaw. It'll just be a continuing cycle of that deterioration of the chimney. But maybe more importantly, that can lead to water actually getting into the house and leading to consequential damage. You want to check flashings for signs of lifting, damage, and you will periodically need to seal and repair these. So flashings, for those who don't know, these are the metal or plastic portions of your roof, typically where the roof meets a vertical surface, okay? So a wall, whether it's above or below. Flashings are also found at chimneys. They're found at windows and doors, skylights. So these are the metal, like kind of lapped, oftentimes lapped, overlapped metal flashings. So as the water goes down the shingle, if it was to hit the flashing, it would hit it and wouldn't go into that wall or into that skylight. It would stop it and would make it go. They're kind of overlapped in such a way that they stair step underneath the shingle and then come out on the bottom. So you want to check those for any lifting, where snow that is sitting on there and melts slowly might creep up underneath there in the spring months. Any flashings that are caulked because of the way that they abut a wall or a window or door, you want to make sure that they're sealed with caulking so that, again, water doesn't get in from wind-driven rain or from snowmelt. And then you want to check and clean all your gutters and eaves troughs. It's good to do this both either in the fall or the spring, or sometimes both, depending on your area and your amount of tree coverage. Because if these gutters get blocked up, they can lead to water getting into the roof. It could also be misdirected. Water is landing by the foundation, and that could get into your basement. By the way, you want all your downspouts to go 4 to 6 feet away from your foundation. And I don't mean 4 to 6 feet away from, they come down and then they go 4 to 6 feet away from where they come down, away from the foundation. So many homes in downtown Toronto are right beside each other, and there's about a 2-foot walkway between so many of our homes. If you bring down a downspout and just extend it 4 to 6 feet, maybe even 4 to 12 feet or 10 feet, but it's not past the foundation, not past the front of your house or past the rear of your house, it's still going to be seeping into the ground, still potentially getting into your basement or your neighbor's basement. Okay, so sometimes you need to run them longer. It's not just about where they go once they come down, but that they go all the way out away from the house. So speaking of the grounds and water flowing away, that's the next most important thing. The key way to keep water out of your basement is with the grounds and the downspouts. 90% of all water damage is related to downspouts and poor grading. And by grading, I mean the way that the grounds around your house slope toward or away from your house. You always want all of your grounds to slope slightly away from the house, okay? If there's a depression, if there's a hill, that means water's coming toward your home. You want to try to redirect that either by building some kind of channel or swale around your house, or by installing an areaway drain, or maybe in the case of some Toronto homes where you don't have a lot of room, like a French drain system, so that the water can go somewhere but not into your basement. That can both lead to mold, it can lead to cosmetic damage, but in some serious cases, it can actually lead to structural issues. Water can actually push in a wall, and then you will wind up with a major structural repair. So as you walk around your grounds, you want to check for window wells. There really aren't dry wells here in Toronto. Storm drains for debris and blockage. You want to make sure that these areas are any leaves, just debris, dirt, grit is out of those drains so that they can properly channel water away. You want to repair any driveway cracks or heaved or settled walkways. Again, part of this is for trip and fall hazards, but it's also to make sure that the driveway slopes away from the house so that the water that's coming towards the driveway slopes away. Sometimes in some homes, we have those underground driveways in Toronto where they actually come towards the house. In those cases, there should be an areaway drain at the base of that, and that should be cleared of debris to make sure the water goes away. You want to trim back all trees and shrubs that are too close to the house. These can actually rub the siding or rub the roof and deteriorate it. But even just the shade from this, from hanging over, can lead to extended periods of water on the roof and on the siding, and that will lead to increased deterioration. So while I love trees, I love foliage, I don't recommend cutting down your trees, but I do recommend you trimming them back and trimming back your bushes so that it doesn't lead to damage. It can also lead to mortar deterioration and brick deterioration. If water gets held into that brick and it freezes and thaws, it will spall off and over time. And so that can help prevent that. You want to check for rainwater drainage around the foundation, ideally during a rainstorm. So next time it rains, go out around your house, see where the water is pooling. If you have water pooling around your house, try to figure out a way to make that not happen. In many cases, you can add soil and just create a little slope so it goes away from the house. Other cases, a downspout may just be going right there and it's not extending far enough away. Well, add that extension, okay? In other cases, it might be more complex. It might be you have to add a drain, you have to add a window well, you have to provide a path for that water to exit that area, like through, like I said, a swale. That's basically a channel where you kind of carve out part of the earth or the ground so that the water can go away somewhere else. But that's very important to keep the water out of your basement. Of course, you want to clean and put away any summer furniture before it gets snowy or dirty or just breaks down with the elements. And you want to drain and store your garden hoses. It is important to empty those. They can freeze and thaw, and then it will crack the garden hose. There, you got to go buy a new garden hose. And maybe more importantly, you want to turn off your exterior valves to your garden hose from the inside. So most people have, in Toronto, we have 2 valves for exterior faucets. So one's on the inside and one's on the outside. You want to make sure to turn off the one on the inside, and then you want to open the one on the outside, okay? And the reason you open it is because that little bit of water that's still stuck in there, it drains out instead of freezing in the winter. And then that can actually crack the pipe. And then you turn it back on in the summer, and you may hear it if you're lucky, but you may not. And then there's a leak going behind that wall, and then it leads to a problem. So make sure to turn off your faucets to exteriors and garages at this time of year, once you're done with your wrapping up things outside. Exterior surfaces, you want to check for weather tightness, and you want to check for deterioration of painted surfaces. This goes for siding, this goes for windows and doors. You want to check for deterioration of painted surfaces. If it's too late for a full paint job, and we are nearing that area, if you can paint in the next few days, do it. Otherwise, you're waiting until next year. Believe it or not, once it gets down, I forget if it's below 10 or if it's below 5, the paint won't stick. And you're painting and it'll look fine, but next year it'll all peel off. So don't bother. Prep it, prime it, get ready for painting next spring. But if you can do it in the next few days, it will be warm enough. But after that, you're just wasting your time and money. Caulk and seal around all joints in the siding, around windows, around doors. I just saw this old Victorian in Little Italy. It had some siding, had some serious siding issues. Oh, hello. Someone there?
Yeah, no, sorry, that was me. I just got a question.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, the caulking around the seal and joints. I do want to hear your story about the Victorian home, but the caulking around the windows, is that done on the interior or exterior?
I'm specifically talking about the exterior now.
Okay.
But you are right that you could do it on the interior as well to reduce energy consumption. Okay. So there is some heat loss through windows and doors sometimes on the interior, but I'm talking more on the outside to make sure that water doesn't get in. If snow sits on a sill and it melts, that it doesn't find its way into those nooks and crannies and find its way into the inside of the house.
Okay, so you would have to do caulking on the outside as well. Okay.
Yes. Usually caulking on the exterior, it lasts a few years, maybe a couple of years, and then usually it cracks and breaks down and you have to reapply it.
Okay.
You might get 4 or 5 years out of it. Maybe there's just like tiny little areas you got to touch up. But it's not it's a maintenance item. You got to do it frequently.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, for sure. Briefly, I'll tell you about that. There was actually serious structural damage in this particular home, in part because of the poor seals around windows, doors, the siding. It also had extremely poor grading in this one area where it was basically like a concrete pad that was below the backyard and below the front yard. So it was just an area for water to pool. But also all of the siding, all of the windows had large breaches. And I'm talking over a 1/4 inch all the way around all windows and doors. And at the edge joints on the siding, this was aluminum siding. And it was very clear that the water was getting in the basement. It was leading to wood rot and structural items. So these issues aren't just about energy efficiency and keeping water out of the interior, but actually it was leading to structural damage. And that's maybe the bigger concern. So check and seal any foundation cracks. Any foundation crack has the potential to leak into the home. So you want to take care of that, identify that, and seal those. That could be with caulking. It could be with a parch coating. And by parch coating, I mean like a cement finish. You want to improve weather stripping around exterior doors and windows for energy efficiency and comfort. You want to reset storms and screens. That's really old fashioned. We don't find that much, but if you do have, storms, take off the screens and put on the second pane of glass for increased energy efficiency and for protection of the interior side. You want to look for any signs of insect damage. If you are living in the beaches, lee side, upper beaches around the Humber River, there's no termite activity in those areas. You probably know about it and you know what termite tubes look like. This is an illustration. It's an okay one. Termite tubes don't quite look like that, but it gives you an idea. I find them to be more gray than that kind of yellow color. But you want to look for that and take care of it. It's a good idea to get into your attic once a year to check for ventilation, make sure that there aren't, they're all opening. I try to do my home inspections during the daytime, so I can see light coming in through the roof vents and through the soffit vents. You want to make sure that the insulation is uniform. Usually insulation stays put, but occasionally there's maybe a contractor who went up there and never put it back. I did a very nice home that had some really modern renovations and recent renovations, and I went into the attic and the insulation was all thrown all over the place and never re-put down. And the renovations were a few years old, so I just wonder about all the energy efficiency that was lost after that renovation because the contractor didn't think to go back up there and put in the insulation correctly. You want to look for any signs of moisture or heat buildup. This could both be moisture that's coming in from the shingles leaking. It could also be signs of moisture in the form of like mold. So if you're seeing spotting, if you're seeing dark sections of what should be white or yellow plywood, that's typically mold, and it's because of poor ventilation or high humidity levels, high moisture levels in the attic due to poor ventilation. So again, taking care of that as soon as possible is a good idea. On the interior, you want to check all areas for signs of roof or plumbing leaks. Even before you get into the attic, you might, most people have never been in the attic and never will go. But if you're finding water stains, like just stains themselves, or in some cases, actual bubbling of paint or a drip coming through a ceiling, well, it means you have a roof leak or some kind of plumbing leak above, and you want to take care of it in short order. There's probably a larger problem underlying that, and it could be mold if there's water getting in. You want to have your fireplace or wood stove and flue checked and professionally cleaned. If you are using this regularly, I would say it's a really good idea, just to make sure that it's healthy and safe and you're not putting yourself at risk. Also, that the flue, not the flue, but the damper is working properly. So when you're not using it, you can close it to make sure you're not getting energy loss. I would say that's probably number one or number two problems with chimneys that I find, is that the damper doesn't work properly. You want to reset any automatic timers and change in daylight savings time. For those of people who have been living under a rock, daylight savings time was over the weekend. So, turn your clock back an hour. You're probably not viewing this because you missed it, but yeah, anyway, bad inspector joke. Check all your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. You should do this on a regular basis anyway. But if the batteries are older than a year, you should replace them. You want to test ground fault circuit interrupters and using the built-in test button. So these are the receptacles you'll find with the push buttons, usually in bathrooms and kitchens, sometimes laundry rooms and garages or exteriors. Well, they should be on the exterior, but there's a reset and a test button. You can just push the test button, make sure it works. If it doesn't, replace it. It's broken. Or it's miswired. That's to prevent electrical shock if introduced to water or some other kind of ground fault. So those are important safety devices in those areas. You want to check your heating and cooling systems. As I mentioned, you take care of your furnace, it'll take care of you. It's good to have that maintained once a year by having a regular inspection. I have a boiler, I have radiators. When my guy comes to come do my boiler, he cleans the boiler. He also bleeds the rads. That's something you have to do on a regular basis. If you don't know how to do it, have him come out, show you, and then you can do it in the future. But that is something that should be done on a regular basis. If it doesn't, it could damage the system. If it doesn't, it could lead to heat stratification. So in other words, places you don't have heat or they don't have heat. They're colder than other parts of the house because there's no water going through the system. And what else? And if there's too much pressure built up in the system, the cushion tank is full of water. It could actually lead to leaks. I do my bleeding myself, and I stupidly left the cushion tank closed, and I wound up with a big leak on my floor this fall because I forgot to open the cushion tank back up. And now hopefully your HVAC guy wouldn't make the same mistake that I did. I don't know why I did that. I was probably, listening to a podcast or something and forgot. But it can actually lead to leakage. So you want to make sure that the system is maintained on a regular basis. You want to remove or winterize room air conditioners. So if you do have window units, I do, you want to take those out. Probably you've already done that. You want to follow the manufacturer instructions for maintenance of your heating system. Kind of already covered that. And you want to clean and test and start a humidifier. So if you are in a forced air home, you probably know your house can get quite dry if you don't have a humidifier running. So you want to make sure that your humidifier is operational and working. Humidifiers break all the time. This is something that home inspectors don't look at as part of our home inspection. It's considered an ancillary system, and they're quite fussy, but they break down frequently, and it's another good reason to have your system maintained by an HVAC contractor. The filter needs to be replaced or cleaned, and that can also lead to mold because it's water, right, sitting in that filter. So that can lead to mold, and then that mold is getting distributed around your house. So you want to make sure that that's cleaned and maintained on a regular basis. So you want to change or clean your heating system filters on warm air systems now and regularly. Every 1 to 3 months is a good idea. You want to check your heating and cooling systems for any evidence of water leaks. So this can oftentimes happen from the condensate line. Air conditioners produce condensation through the process of creating the cool air. But heating systems, many, what do I want to say, like direct vent heating systems, high efficiency systems, also produce a certain amount of condensation. That condensate line needs to be cleaned every so often so it's not blocked and leads to a backup and leads to a leak inside your furnace. That can damage the furnace, the air handler, and then you're buying a new one. So you want to make sure that that is, if you find any leaks, you take care of them promptly. Again, if you maintain your system, your HVAC guy will find that out. Have your heating system serviced annually. I've already talked to you about that. So let's move on to plumbing. So you want to close shutoffs and drain exterior water lines. I've kind of already mentioned that. There are other areas where this can happen. In luxury properties, you may have a pool house. You may have a bathroom for that pool house or a sink for that pool house. Some people, even not luxury properties, just people who are looking to upgrade their home and make it more of a place to host, sometimes have exterior kitchens or exterior sinks. And so if you do, you want to make sure that those are shut off and drained. So you're not leading to freezing and damaging of those plumbing lines. Insulate any water lines that are subject to freezing, or better yet, put a heat source in where those areas are. One problem with Toronto homes is that we have cold rooms, and we are a metropolitan area. So we're trying to maximize all the space we have. So it's very frequent that I see a cold room at the front of the house underneath the patio or underneath the porch that never had heating in the past become the laundry room or potentially become a bathroom. And it has no heating in there. And while it is underground and oftentimes temperatures won't get to freezing, in some of the really, really cold days of the year, it can. And I've seen catastrophic water damage in some of these laundry rooms. So it's a really good idea to get a heating source in there, or at a minimum, insulate those lines and monitor them regularly. So you want to check the condition of your water heater. Water heaters generally last around from 7 to 10 years if they're gas, 10 to 15 if they're electric. So if they're nearing that age, you should consider replacing them. Or at least monitoring them to make sure that you don't wind up with leaks. You want to check your plumbing system and fixtures for any evidence of water leaks. So, good to just take a look under your sinks every once in a while, under the kitchen sink, under the bathroom sinks. Are you seeing leaks? If you saw like a little water damage or water stain on the base of a sink cabinet or something like that, it might be that it had a leak in the past. So take care of that before it leads to a larger problem. And confirm proper operation of your sump pump at present. Sump pumps last about 10 years. They can be a maintenance item, and there can be debris that gets into the sump pit. And in so doing, it can impact the performance of the sump pump. So while I don't recommend you put your hand in a sump pit without checking that it isn't live with electricity, you can test it by sometimes lifting the cord or lifting a portion of it with a string or with a stick to make sure that it does click on and run. Or you can dump a bucket of water in there to force the pit to rise, and then once the pit rises to a certain level, the sump pump will kick on. So as I mentioned, I have this sheet. This is an old one from this presentation. The new one looks like this. Happy to share it with you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. As a reminder, I'm really here for you for today and here for Elaine and Alex because they're good clients and good realtors. I think that sharing this with you guys goes a long way to making sure you don't have problems in the future. But if you do have any questions, you want to do a home maintenance inspection, please do give me a call. We're trained, we're certified. I don't need to plug myself. So again, thank you. And I'm ready to answer any questions that anybody might have about this or anything else.
Thank you, Michael. I thought that was very informative. Thank you for going through that very detailed presentation.
Thank you.
I did have a couple questions. So first question, I know you're replacing your roof for the property that you have in Hamilton. You're saying you can do it now. When is there an ideal time to do the roof? Like, in other words, you never really know when the roof is going to go on its last legs.
Yeah.
Are you better off going through a winter and doing it in the spring, or are you better doing it, replacing the roof as soon as possible?
Well, the short answer to your question is the best time to do it is to do it before it leaks. But yeah, of course, you don't want to do it too cold, okay? And the reason is because many of the shingles actually have an adhesive on them. And if the adhesive is too cold when they lie it down, like they are nailing it in, but if the adhesive is too cold, then you can actually end up with wind damage later because the adhesive never fully sealed the roof down, and then wind can actually blow the shingles off. And I find that in a lot of developments that I've seen, like in suburbs like Whitby, Ajax, Brampton. It seems like these homes, and while they're good homes, sometimes some of them don't always have the best quality materials, and they're not always built in the ideal conditions. So I would say that, I'm told by my roofers that there's still time, and I believe them. But certainly, I don't think you want to be doing it after Christmas, and you probably don't want to do it. You don't want to do it again until March. You know what I mean? Mid-March at the earliest, probably. People will do it, and if you have an emergency, they can come out and they can do a repair. But probably this month is the last time to do it if you want to do it right.
Great, that's helpful. Perfect. Next question is, if you're going away, let's say you're planning a getaway in the winter, you're going to go for a little ski trip or something. In Canada, we can't travel outside of Canada right now, but yeah. What is the minimum temperature you would set your home to if you were to go away in the winter? To prevent any sort of like, freezing of pipes and so forth.
Well, pipes will freeze at 0 degrees. So as long as you keep it above that, you'd be okay. But I would say that probably you want to keep it well above that. When I've gone away for extended periods of time, I might set it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, that is. The other reason to consider is that too cold of temperatures can actually cause damage to, say, like I live in a very old home. My home's 130 years old. So I have plaster walls. And if there's huge temperature swings between certain materials, it can lead to like cracking and stuff like that. in just wall surfaces and ceilings. So that's another reason to maybe keep it above a certain temperature. The other reason that I keep it that high is that when I come back, I don't want to have to wait that long for it to get back to a regular temperature. If you're in a forced air home, the heat's going to come on faster and warm up faster. If you're in a boiler situation with radiators, it's going to take longer. It takes me about a good half an hour to hour for the hot water to start coursing through the whole system at a consistent temperature. And then the last reason that I would keep it at that temperature, and maybe you could push it to like say 50, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. But the other reason you don't want it to go too low is because say you do have some vulnerable areas, but you don't know they're vulnerable. But I'm talking about piping, plumbing that's maybe too close to an exterior wall. And then you go away and the temperature of your house is down, and then the temperature outside goes down. So while it's consistently 50 degrees in the whole house, on that edge where that plumbing may be hiding that you don't know about, you could end up with some freezing. And the reason I mention that is because when we've had some really, really cold winters a few years ago, I had the pipes freeze in my house, and I had the temperature at like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And so sometimes there can just be those areas of your home, just based on design, where they place the plumbing, maybe breaches. Like I said, these holes that are in your house on this outside of your house, they can bring cold air in, and you don't even know. You don't feel cold, but there's cold pockets that are affecting other parts of your system. So if you went down too cold, and nobody would be there to fix it. So then you end up with a burst pipe, and you're gone on vacation. So I would say 60 degrees would probably be safe. That's kind of what I do at my house.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Michael, I have two questions that were emailed in earlier. One, someone was asking about how in the winter months tends to be rodents in their garage, like, trying to find something warm to pass the winter in or whatnot. How do you, how do you manage that? Like, because oftentimes people have garages that are full of, storage items and whatnot. How do you have to clear everything out to do a full inspection on the interior? Are there is it prudent to just set traps every year? Like, how do you manage?
Well, do you know if this particular call is coming from a garage that is attached or a garage that is detached?
This one's attached.
It's attached, so it's attached to the home. So the fear is that the rodents are getting into the garage, and then the fear is that they're getting into the rest of the house.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, rodents are, I think, an issue that most people have to deal with at some point in home ownership. It seems like some people never have to deal with them, but others do, and it doesn't always make sense. I would say primarily it's due to the area. So are you near a field? Are you near a park? Are you near a cornfield? Are you near areas where rodents? Are you near a restaurant? You know what I mean? Places where rodents may congregate, like in downtown Toronto. Some of the worst rodents I've ever seen evidence of rodents I've ever seen in home inspections are near restaurants or apartments, condos above restaurants. So I should preface this, now that I think about it, as I'm not exterminator, and home inspections don't look for, we're not looking for pests. But if we see obvious signs of them, then we bring it up.
I think we're just talking, I think the question was more related to like preventative measures on how to.
So as far as preventative measures go, I would say, sealing any cracks and entry points into the house. And in a garage, that can be hard because oftentimes garages don't have a full seal on the house. And so it is easy for rodents to get in. It depends on what type of person you are, and what your comfort level is. But I do use poison in my rental property. I have these little bait traps. And I do find that while I don't have issues at I used to have issues at my house, and I went around the entire home and sealed all the cracks with caulking and steel wool. Okay. Spray foam can also work, but steel foam is the key. Steel wool is the key because rodents don't like to eat it. And so they might chew into it, and then they feel that steel wool and they stop. Okay. For me, I had to enclose my full porch. So once I enclose the front porch, no more rodents. Okay. So things like this, vines on your house. Oh, no, actually, I'm lying. The vines, they were coming in through the vines. So I removed the vines off the side of my house, and then both the enclosing the porch and removing the vines really helped. Okay. But I also use poison. And you'll find that they'll come in the spring and they'll come in the fall. And I still battle it with my rental property in Hamilton. I tried sealing all the cracks, but there must be areas that I can't reach under porches, under decks, that they're still finding their way in. But it is just one of those things where, as part of your maintenance, I have to refill the poison, a couple times a year. Okay. And so that's one way. But the best way to keep them out is go around, see all the breaches, fill all those cracks. It's good to fill the cracks just as a matter of course for what do I want to say? Air transfer and water seepage, but also it keeps bugs and rodents out.
Right. Okay, good. I hope that helps that person. And then the second question, I'm not entirely, hopefully once our client has watched this whole webinar, they will have learned a lot about what you had said earlier in the presentation. That would help, but I'm not quite sure about the specifics, but they were asking about a drafty window, or sorry, a drafty room. They have one drafty room in their home, and okay. They were wondering whether it's related to the window, whether it's poor heat coming from the vent, or if it's an insulation problem.
Okay. Well, without being present, I have to offer the caveat that I don't know, but it could be any of those situations. Sometimes lack of insulation leads to the feeling of a draft, because the way that heat and cold waves kind of circle through a room, and the way they feel on our body, it actually feels like a draft, even though there isn't a draft coming through. And a really great way to demonstrate this is if you're at a condo, like a modern condo or like a modern department store, and you go to an exterior window in the wintertime. And I'll tell you, those are double paned windows. They're fully sealed, and there is no air transfer through those, but it feels like wind is blowing off of that. And sometimes from lack of insulation in an older home, solid brick home, sometimes they just put the plaster right on the brick. And so you can get those cycles. And so the lack of insulation can be creating that feeling. That feeling can also be created with lack of insulation underneath the floor. Okay. So some of these homes, they might have a porch, and they built the bedroom over the porch. Well, there's no insulation under that floor, and it can be creating the same issue. There also, in those old homes, can be a draft that's coming through that floor. Or there could just be a draft from poor windows and poor doors from an old home. I can tell you that in my home, I have several original windows, or if not original, near original window in my 130-year-old home. And now that it's getting colder, there's quite a draft through those. And so I make it part of my winter routine that I actually put one of those tape and seal.
Yeah, I've actually used one of those before too.
Yeah, it really helps. It's incredible how much it helps. And you can't operate that window during the fall and spring, like the kind of transition periods, but it really helps with air transfer. And that might be something to look into. The other thing to look into is replacing the windows with new windows. And the other thing to look into is what you mentioned before, Elaine, which is that sometimes around the windows on the interior themselves, there is breaches around the sill and frame that is actually air transfer is getting in through there, you know? And so sealing that with caulking can go a long ways to doing that. I remember there was a ad with David Suzuki a few years ago where he's like has a caulk gun and he was doing all the windows. I always remember that, but that it's actually a really good idea. And the same would go for doors. And with doors, if the door is drafty, if you like, my son has a door to a front porch, like a balcony, and that's rather drafty. It's a weather seal problem. So redoing the weather seal is another way of preventing that with a door specifically.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Alex, did we have any other questions on the chat or any of the ones that were sent in earlier?
Yeah, there's one more. You kind of covered that a little bit, but we'll ask it here. It says, when do you feel is the best time to replace a window in your home? Like, I know you kind of touched on it, you've got some older windows, and they don't say specifically in terms of, you know, is it original or how old? But maybe if you can go through some general guidelines in terms of what you recommend from a perhaps efficiency standpoint, because obviously windows are expensive, and not everyone wants to do all the windows, but maybe something you can share some insight on a little bit, because I don't have specifics on this question here, but that would be great.
Yeah, when to replace windows and doors. You know, it's hard. I don't know if I can really say there's a good time. I could say there's a bad time. You don't want to have to do it in the winter, because oftentimes windows and doors are elevated. Well, at least windows are elevated and need a ladder, and that doing that in the snow isn't ideal. Windows take a long time to order. They're custom made basically. And so, so you can expect like a month or more for production time on many windows. And so what is a good idea sometimes is to start the process, maybe in the winter before you get to spring. So then by the time you get to spring, you have them ready and to be installed. Whereas if you wanted to start it now, they wouldn't be ready until winter, and then it really wouldn't be a good time to install it, in my mind. The other reason is if they're installing the flashing and doing the caulking in the wintertime, it's not going to set properly because of the cold. So it's the same kind of issue with paint, and so you wouldn't want to do that. Now I'll tell you, contractors work at any time of year, and they'll sell you windows and install them. So don't do it now, buddy. Whoever's asking, don't do it now. Because by the time the window gets made, it's going to be too cold to really do it properly. And I'm sure that they're going to sell you the windows. I think that sometimes people ask these questions, and even my wife and I were contemplating this the other day in regards to an air conditioner. We went through this last summer during COVID without air conditioning, and it was brutal. And we were like, if we're staying home another summer, we got to get central air. And so we're going to set up a split system. And so this is a bit of a bit veering off, but both my wife and I thought, hey, it's fall. I bet you could get a break on an air conditioner, right? Like nobody's getting them. And so I reached out to several of my HVAC contacts, and they all said no. They all said, no, you don't get any discount. In fact, because it's wintertime and we don't want to do that, we got other work with furnaces and stuff, we're going to charge you more. So he said, Michael, like we've known each other a while. Don't worry, I'll give you a good deal. Like, call me back in March, call me back in April, and we'll get it set up. So I thought that, hey, time of year, like I've always heard, you buy a car in December, you get a good deal. And that I think is probably still true. But when it comes to home things, I don't know if there's really, you get a break if that's what you might be looking for with your windows. And in fact, I would say that one thing that everybody should keep in mind, if you are planning on home maintenance or you're planning on renovations, if you haven't already picked up on it, is that supply chains have been really screwed up with COVID-19, and that's really affected home renovations and repairs. And the price of materials has gone up, and the price of labor has gone up. And so everything is more expensive right now. And the good thing is everybody has time to do it. And I think that more homes are getting maintained better now than they have for the past 20 years because people just have time to do it. It's great. I'm looking forward to homes being in better condition. But you can expect that you are going to be paying more for some of these things. And when I was getting quotes for the roofer, and I think this is a bit of a sales pitch, they were telling me asphalt shingles are going up. So they're like, get it done now, because I'll tell you that next year, 2021, asphalt shingles are going to be more expensive. So you save on material costs now. At least that's what they're telling me. So, but I think a bit of that is a sales pitch for me. I need to get the roof done. So it just has to be done. My roof is in terrible shape. So, but those are things to keep in mind as far as the material costs and stuff. And the last thing I'll say is when you're getting renovations done, get 3 quotes. Even I make this mistake, and I know better, and I tell everybody to get 3 quotes. I was really disappointed by a contractor recently. He's a friend of mine, and I just gave it to him, and I didn't get 2 other quotes. And the guys he sent did a terrible job. They didn't even finish it and basically walked off the job. And so get references, get recommendations. Contractors are really busy right now. And so they can walk off a job and they don't care because they got another job lined up already. And they didn't walk off because they were mad or we had a disagreement. Just for the record, they walked off because they felt they were done enough, you know? And this is a common trope with contractors, is that they get it about 80% done and then they move on to the next paycheck. And then they leave you to clean up the extra 20%. And they maybe don't get your full paycheck, but they were never planning on getting the full paycheck anyway. So really good to get recommendations, really good to get 3 quotes. Don't go with the cheapest guy. It's always good to maybe go with the high guy or aim in the middle. That's probably the best advice I can give you.
Well, thank you for that. That's a good tip at the end for sure. For those of you who are watching on the replay, if you have any questions for Michael, please either reach out to him directly or you can forward any of your questions to me or Alex. And we will definitely get you some answers through Michael. And then also Michael has his whole presentation in a checklist format in a PDF, he said, that he can share with everyone. If you're interested, yes, that's the one. And so, feel free to reach out to him as well. Michael, do you want to go through your contact details one more time?
Yeah, sure. I can bring that up. So I don't know if I'm still sharing the screen.
No, you're not.
Okay, so I'll just bring up my contact information and then I'll share the screen so you can have it. But yeah, feel free to reach out anytime, both if you're a homeowner or a realtor. I know that Elaine, you and Alex already know this, but I always tell all my realtor clients, anytime you run anything, you have a question, just give me a call, whether I'm doing the inspection or not, whether you're just looking at the home or not, just give me a call. Always happy to give a couple minutes to answer any questions you might have. And for homeowners, I offer you the same thing. I try to help out people as best I can. I give away a lot of free advice. So reach out. Phone is best way to reach me. That way we can just get the questions answered and get you set up with what you need to do next.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. And we'll see you at a future home inspection.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep, thanks, Alex. Take care.